My name is Willie. I'm sitting in my apartment right now, the rain tapping gently against the windowpane. It's been a while since that terrifying night, but the memory still haunts me like a shadow. I remember the moment the real police finally arrived. Flashing blue and red lights reflected off the wet pavement outside my window. 2 officers ran towards a dark van, guns drawn. One of the men who had been trying to break into my apartment bolted from behind the van and disappeared into the woods, while another was tackled to the ground. I felt a surge of relief mixed with disbelief. If I had opened that door, I might not be here to tell this story. Let me take you back to how it all started. I'm a freelance web developer, and I live alone in a cozy apartment in a quiet neighborhood of Seattle. My parents are both school teachers. My father is a strict but fair man, always emphasizing the importance of hard work and integrity. My mother is kind-hearted and nurturing, always there with a warm word and a home-cooked meal. They raised me to be independent, and I've always valued my quiet, predictable life. I moved into this apartment 3 years ago after graduating from college. The neighborhood was filled with friendly families and retirees. The only person I really got to know well was my neighbor, Lily. She was 32 years old and worked as a lab technician at a local hospital. She was a gentle soul, always smiling, but she kept a lot of her personal life to herself. We'd chat in the hallway about the latest neighborhood news or complain about the old elevator. I trusted her, like you trust a neighbor who'd lend you a cup of sugar or water your plants when you're away. That fateful Friday night, I was working late on a project for a client. The apartment smelled of coffee and the faint scent of my favorite candles. I was wearing an old hoodie and listening to music through my headphones when I heard a loud, sharp knock on the door. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but then another knock followed, harder and faster. I paused my music and took off my headphones. I heard movement outside the door and then my name. "Willie, please, it's me. Open the door." It was Lily's voice, but it sounded panicked and out of breath. I rushed to the door and looked through the peephole. What I saw made my blood run cold. She was barefoot, her hair in disarray, and there was blood on her arm. She kept looking over her shoulder as if someone was chasing her. I started to unlock the door, but something inside me screamed not to. Instead, I asked through the door, "Lily, what happened? Do you need help?" Her eyes met mine through the peephole, and she whispered, "Hide. Don't open for anyone, not even the police. Please promise me." Then she turned and ran down the hallway. I stood there, frozen, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I ran to the window, hoping to see where she went, but the parking lot was empty. The streetlights flickered against the wet pavement, and the whole building seemed eerily quiet. I tried to think rationally. Maybe she'd been attacked and was running for help. Maybe she was just scared and confused. I picked up my phone to call 911, but my hands were shaking so badly that I almost dropped it. Before I could dial, there was another knock. This time, it was slow and deliberate. A man's voice called out, "Seattle Police Department. Open the door." I backed away, my hands trembling. I didn't know who was outside or what was going on, but I remembered Lily's warning. I looked through the peephole, but all I could see were shadows. There was no uniform, no badge, and no flashing lights. Something felt off. How could the police have arrived so quickly when I hadn't even called them? My instincts told me to stay quiet. I backed away from the door and turned off the lights. The only light in the apartment came from my laptop screen. The knocking continued, steady and calm, as if the person outside had all the time in the world. "Ma'am, we're with the police. We just need to make sure you're safe," the voice said. I wanted to believe them, but Lily's words echoed in my head. I took a step back, holding my phone close, and whispered to myself, "Something isn't right." That's when I realized there were multiple footsteps outside. I knew that whatever was happening, it was far from over. I called 911. The dispatcher answered immediately, her voice calm and professional. 911, what's your emergency? I tried to keep my voice steady. Someone's knocking on my door, claiming to be police. My neighbor came here bleeding and told me not to open for anyone. She ran off, and now these people are here. The dispatcher asked for my address, and I gave it as quietly as I could. After a short pause, she said something that made my stomach drop. Ma'am, we don't have any officers dispatched to your address right now. Stay inside and keep your door locked. Real officers are on their way. I whispered, then who's outside my door? She replied firmly, do not engage. Stay quiet. Lock yourself in a safe room if possible. Help is coming. I hung up and slowly backed into my bedroom, every nerve in my body on edge. The knocking stopped suddenly, and for a few seconds, there was complete silence. Then I heard heavy footsteps moving down the hallway. I could tell there was more than one person out there. I crawled to the window and looked out. In the corner near the dumpster, a dark van was idling. Its headlights were off, and the engine made a low hum that sent shivers down my spine. I saw a man in dark clothes and a cap step out and look up at my building as if counting the windows. I ducked down immediately, my heart pounding. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. I thought it might be Lily, so I answered without thinking. Hello, I said. A shaky but familiar voice came through. Willie, it's me. Don't make a sound. They're not cops. They followed me. I'm trying to get to the police now. Stay quiet and keep the lights off. Lily, what's happening? I whispered. She didn't answer right away. I could hear her breathing, like she was running. Then she said, they know I saw something I shouldn't have. They'll try to trick you. Just don't open that door. And then the line went dead. I stared at my phone, my hands trembling. I wanted to believe it was all a misunderstanding, but deep down, I knew something terrible was happening. The sound of metal scraping came from the living room. Someone was trying to force open my door. I froze and backed into the closet, pulling the door almost shut, trying not to make a sound. The only noise in the apartment was the faint tapping of tools against the lock. Then a male voice muttered, she's in here. I saw the light move, and my breath caught in my throat. I pressed my hand over my mouth and prayed that the real police would arrive before they got in. For what felt like an eternity, I listened as they worked on the lock. My heart was beating so loudly that I was afraid they could hear it. Then, suddenly, the noise stopped. I waited, too terrified to even breathe. A second later, the doorknob rattled, once, twice, and then there was silence. I could hear one of them say, forget it. She's calling for help. Let's move. Their footsteps faded down the hallway. I didn't move for several minutes. My body felt like a block of ice, but my mind was racing. I thought about Lily. What could she have gotten herself into? Then, out of nowhere, there was shouting outside the building. Tires screeched, and someone yelled, stop. I crawled towards the window and carefully lifted the curtain just enough to see the flashing blue and red lights of the real police. After the police secured the scene, two officers, Officer Thompson and Officer Davis, came to my door. Officer Thompson showed me his badge through the peephole, and I finally opened the door. They told me that the men were part of a criminal group posing as police and paramedics to break into homes. They targeted vulnerable people, and Lily had been the first to report their suspicious activities at the hospital. Lily had noticed inconsistencies in patient files. People who came in for minor injuries would disappear from the system. She saw one of the men talking to a cleaning staff member in the hospital parking lot. When she reported it to her supervisor, strange things started to happen. Her car tires were slashed, and she started getting threatening phone calls. She had gathered enough evidence to prove that the group was involved in an illegal organ trafficking operation. When they realized she had gone to the police, they followed her home from work. She ran to my apartment because my light was on, and she hoped I would help. The officers said they had caught one of the men, and the other had run into the woods, but they were setting up a search perimeter. They also told me that Lily was on her way to the police station and was shaken but alive. In the days that followed, the police kept me updated on the investigation. They confirmed that the group was part of a larger criminal ring operating in several states. The man they caught confessed that they had planned to use me as leverage to get to Lily. For the first week, I couldn't sleep through the night. Every sound in the hallway made me jump. My parents called constantly, begging me to come home, but I wanted to stay and prove to myself that I wouldn't let fear control me. Lily and I stayed in touch. She was moved to a safe house until the case was over. Every time we talked, she sounded stronger. She was helping the detectives identify other people involved in the operation. About 2 weeks after the incident, the police came to my apartment to replace my damaged lock and install a better security system. Officer Thompson gave me a handwritten note from Lily. It said, "You listened when no one else would. That's what saved us both. Never doubt your instincts again." That message hit me hard. It made me realize that safety isn't just about locks and quiet neighborhoods. It's about being aware of your surroundings and trusting your gut. I decided to join a community safety group. Sharing my story helped others open up about their own fears, and it made me feel like I could actually help protect someone else. A month later, Lily called to tell me that they had caught the rest of the group. "It's over, Willie," she said. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. We were both safe, and we had learned a valuable lesson about the power of trust and instinct. A few weeks after that, Lily stopped by my apartment before moving to a new city. We sat together, drinking coffee and talking about normal things, avoiding the topic of that terrifying night. When she left, she hugged me tightly and said, "You were my lifeline that night." As I watched her drive away, I thought about how that one moment of trust and that split-second decision to listen to my instincts had changed everything. Life doesn't always give second chances, but when it does, it can change the way you see the world forever. And now, as I sit here in my apartment, I know that even in the darkest moments, courage can be found in the space between fear and instinct.